Welcome back. You're watching Young Turks, India's longest running show on startups. On this special, we bring you all the highlights from Manifest 2016, the Founders Summit. Now, it's often said that it's lonely at the top, but the reality is that it's lonely at the start too. So in this segment, we dive into a no-holds-barred conversation with 3 startup founders who've negotiated the early curveballs to reach some semblance of steadiness. Young Turks' Megha Vishwanath caught up with Kanika Tekriwal of JetSetGo, Amit Agarwal of No Broker, and Aakrit Vaish of Haptik to understand how their goals have shifted from chasing funding and satisfying investors to building passionate teams and finding real purpose. Here are the 3 founders at their candid best.
What inspired you to start up?
So as a personal experience, all of us co-founders had a very bad experience with brokers, and hence we started nobroker.com.
Internet is still the youngest. We're 25 years old. So we have such a long way to go. So when I had to make a call on where do I want to bet my life on, I felt this was the right place for the next 50 years.
I had a colleague tell me, you really want to go back and work in business aviation in India? It doesn't work. Where is India on the business aviation map?
Are these questions that you ask internally as well, or are these just questions that are outside but you've convinced yourself that, you know, it's fine, I'm going to get through this, or do you still doubt yourselves?
I think these are just external questions. I don't remember having a moment where I've asked myself, is this going to work? Why this? Am I wrong? And yeah, I've been getting it a lot externally that, you know, are you crazy? Aviation in India, it's so regulated, it's so controlled. I've had customers tell me, "Aap plane bechoge," you know, lots of strange stuff. But I don't think we've ever looked back and stopped and wondered, are we doing the right thing? Because we acquired our first customer at a very early stage. We've seen double-digit growth every month. We've been operationally profitable. So no.
You are saying that you've never had a bad day.
Yeah.
With Aakrit, have there been like dark days, like things that nobody talks about?
So see, in our case, when we started and when we started meeting many investors and many of our friends, it was a divided house. So basically a lot of friends and many customers said that yes, this is a problem and we have had bad experience with broker, and it would be really great if someone can come up with a solution which avoids a broker or avoids a brokerage.
This is despite other players being there in the market.
Yes, but there were equally number of investors as well as friends who said that had this been a real problem, then why has it not been solved by someone in the West?
Yeah.
So even if you don't have doubts, people basically create a lot of doubts in your mind. But I think what has been very consistent is the customer verdict. So our learning is that when there are divided opinions, I think the only opinion which matters is that of a customer. So when in doubt, talk to more customers. That's the only way out.
Aakrit, you've had to pivot a lot, right, through your journey. What you started with and what you are today.
We've launched 4 versions of Haptik now in 2.5 years.
Yes.
So I think for us, I don't think there has been so much of a question that do we believe in or not. I think the question has been more about how are we going to get there, because everything that we built is based on first principles. It would be difficult for people to get it, which means that when a new user is downloading or installing or using the product, it requires a change of behavior. I think 3 weeks in Jan 2014, where every single day I used to come to the office and only walk for 8 hours. Think that is this what I want to do for the next few years of my life? Because the initial results weren't good of the beta. Every single investor in the country told us this is not going to work. So yeah, I did that for 21 into 8, 160 hours of my life probably at one point, and then went back.
However, did that sentiment change when Facebook launched their bots?
That sentiment is, honestly what's happened is when we first went out, when we started, when our seed round of funding, the most common question we got asked was, Amit type question, is that, hey look, you know what, nobody's done it in the US, no one's done it anywhere. How do you think someone's going to do this? And if you're saying you're going to take away attention from Google, won't Google do it tomorrow? That was the big question. Fine, we got past it, there is our seed round. Last year when we went for our Series B, the most common question was, hey, everybody's doing it. What just happened? There's like 75 companies now doing this. How are you going to compete against all of them? And now here we are today where there's again back to 3. I think the one thing I have learned from this exercise is that external validation is only an ego boost. Ultimately what matters is customers, users, what they are telling you. Even if it's B2B business, in our B2C business, we have a team that calls 300 people every single day just to get feedback.
Kanika, did you have to do this? He had the advantage of making 300 calls every day and talking to customers. But when you have a business model that deals with a very niche segment, how do you take customer feedback, and what is your strategy there?
Our customer base is very, very limited. One unhappy customer could be 2% revenue hit to us. I can't ask my customers so many questions. They don't have the time. I can't even ask them a question. Forget that. So for a long time we played the guessing game. I would stand there when a plane arrived, ask the cabin crew, ask the pilots, go and see the plane, what sort of a state is it in. You can make out if the customer hasn't eaten any food, you've done something wrong. So we realized along the way that quality of delivery is very, very important. Service levels have to be very high. So which is when we didn't pivot, we just I think did a lot of backward integration. From simply being a portal that aggregates planes, we went to managing planes. So overnight we were running operations like that of an airline, where we had our own crew, our own pilots, our own catering services, our own airport handlers, all of that. So from zero capital requirement, we went up to like 8-digit capital requirement. And we had a customer call us the next day saying, I want to invest in you, I want to invest in you, I want to invest in you. That's the amazing part of being an entrepreneur also. I think everything just comes to you.
That's an amazing part of being an entrepreneur. And when you're dealing with such a niche segment, customers who have money to give you.
I could do
I know. Hey, can you find So how do you deal with something like that, especially knowing that your competitors have their banks loaded, they have their brands, they have probably, they've been around for longer than you have. How do you then, break through that market and go tell the customer that, hey, you know what, forget about these brands, look at what I have to offer?
So see, we realized, so sometimes constraint is also a very good thing, right?
Yeah.
So you have limited money in the bank, your next competitor has 50 times more money than you. So what happened is we realized that we have to be very frugal. For to give an example, we cannot afford to go to a house and click pictures of that property, because if we do that, we'll incur some 200 rupees, and we don't want to charge this to the customer because we are in the business of removing brokerage.
Right.
And we can't say we are charging a hefty fees because then it will look like a brokerage itself. So we said that, can you just WhatsApp us the photos? So whenever I think there is a constraint, it basically makes you more innovative. And
you come up with a better idea.
The way which I was discussing
cost.
about the click and earn feature, where some passerby clicks a photo of a two-led board and sends us, and we pay him based on the owner listing. So I think what works is if customer is your ally and if he can help you out, there is nothing like it.
Excellent. So I'm just going to wrap up this discussion and quickly understand, what is the mindset of Indian entrepreneurs these days? What is the strategy going forward? Kanika, let's start with you. And how do you plan to stay just at it?
What's happening in the Indian scenario right now is great. It's much required. This correction that's going on, unheard of valuations, stupid valuations is what I would call them. Just because it's working in the West does not mean it will work in India. A no-broker may not work in Europe, but it's going to work beautifully in India. A lot of people were getting into this business for the whole valuation game.
Yeah.
I personally believe any business that's not in it for the valuation game and is in it to actually solve a problem, deliver a promise to a customer, will work and is working. The other thing that I see working really well is, people are opening up to younger people doing business.
Yeah.
It was much required in India. People didn't take people in their 20s, 30s seriously.
For whatever reason, right, a lot of startups in India typically end up, and maybe that's a function of our country as well, the teams are majorly formed of people in their mid to late 20s, right, which is even our teams, every team, right. That is very different from how it works in San Francisco. So in San Francisco, even if you start the company at a very young age, most of your team is actually mid to late 30s, is senior. They've been out there in industry. They've done 10-15 years of experience. I think the challenge for us as an industry really is, and that's actually one of the fundamental reasons beyond the funding piece why so many companies have not been able to make it from last year, is because of that indiscipline that gets created due to the immaturity of the team.
One learning which basically I have found is that earlier I used to think that if you get any smart person and if you give him a ground where there's huge amount of freedom, then he will be really passionate and he will work amazingly for us. But that's wrong. My learning is that people basically are passionate or they are not passionate.
Yeah. Exactly.
And you can really not make a not passionate person passionate.
Yeah.
So now my interview question is, have you done anything in life which is full of passion? Have you chased a girl and his parents and her parents? Have you really played a hockey game for years even when you knew that there is no medal inside? So what's important, be it age which is younger or older, is apart from the technical experience of solving it and managing people in culture,
Who they are as people.
yeah, is a fundamental person-based philosophy that are you a passionate person or not?
I think short-term pressure comes out of me when I whack the tennis ball, right? So that's what happens on a daily basis or a regular basis. I think the long-term pressure is the hardest task.
Celebrating 15 years of Young Turks.